Hello, welcome to the video that is all about paint. You are going to learn some stuff that's going to help you with your budget, that will help you with your mindset in this video. Let's jump in because we have a lot to talk about. I am asked a lot of questions about paint and I totally understand there's so much out there. So I will tell you about my favorite things, why I like them, and then we can explore some options where we can mix and match some stuff. And why don't you get your also your supply list that came with the course will have all of these listed out for you. So grab a pen, circle what your favorites are in reference to what I'm showing you here, and then purchase accordingly. All right, we have got, first of all, I'm gonna do a flat brush today as I am testing out these colors for you. I think it'll be a little bit easier to see. But of course, there's paint, there's also palettes. And then in a separate video, I will talk about paper because paper is also a part of the equation when you're talking about watercolor. All right, so you will always need water. You will always need a paper towel with your paint. And let's jump into tube colors. Now, I really like these Daniel Smith colors. They're really great pigments. Everything is very true to color on the website. And then I also have these nice Winsor and Newton colors. This is the professional grade. Oftentimes, if you buy them at a craft store, you will buy a smaller tube compared to, say, a store brand Master's Touch from Hobby Lobby. This just isn't very high quality paint. And I've really tried to get into the cheaper colors, and they're very glossy, they're very acrylic acting, and I really don't think they're true pigment and a little bit of binder. I think they're mostly binder, which is really not good. It usually ends up flaking off the paper or fading over time, and I would really hate for your work to fade over time. If you want to end up keeping any of your work or to do some, beautiful botanicals or landscapes, I don't want all of your work to go in vain with using poor color choices, poor pigment choices. Definitely buy within your budget, but also buy as high of quality as you can afford. I pulled some random colors here. I thought I could show you what tube colors look like here on the page. And why don't I squirt them into this. This is a super cheap, I think $1.99 plastic palette. These are great for the classroom. Some of the more powerful pigments do end up staining them, but that's okay. They won't pick up onto your brush after that first initial use because it's already stained into the plastic. It's not going to be lifted up again. So to get the right consistency of paint, you add brushfuls and you test it out. And of course, now I'm regretting using this flat brush in this little circle well, but to give you an idea of the paint pigment, that's what we have for burnt sienna. Okay, so a lot of that here is stored up in my bristles. I have quite a bit of bristles. So if I want to change colors, I wash my brush out and I go into a new color. Let's try this blue. This is Prussian Blue from Winsor & Newton. I'll use a little bit more pigment. Be very careful with those tube colors if you do want to use them fresh. Don't get extra pigment out on the outside like a ketchup bottle or toothpaste. It will glue the cap shut if you... Oh wow, look at this color. What a beautiful blue. So I've just added one brushful, and wow, I love that color. That's beautiful. And this is not one I'm used to in my palette actually, so I'm just really loving looking at this. It's really lovely. So you can see that with each added brushful of water, the pigment gets lighter. And it will kind of pool up awkwardly, or it can seem to you to be awkward. I don't think it's awkward. I think it's really pretty how it pools like this a little bit. It gathers in odd places, especially if your paper doesn't have a lot of sizing in it, it will kind of settle and gather in little pockets. And that's fine. That is the nature of watercolor. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, you can use it to your advantage. Here I've got new Gamboge. This is one of my very favorite pigments from Winsor & Newton. You'll see why. Again, making sure there's no extra color that hung out around the cap so that when you shut it, you're not going to seal it shut. Okay, we've got this beautiful, sunny, new Gamboge color that I just adore so much. The more water you add to yellow, it quickly loses its value range. This blue has a huge value range. I could keep adding water to that blue and it would take a long time for it to look white. It wouldn't take a ton of time for this yellow to look white. So let's do the quinacridone pink. I consider this to be a magenta because it is that color profile or that hue, but there are many flavors of magenta, and you will notice that even from brand to brand, from seller to seller, these pigments look a little different. There is a trick to knowing how to get the same pigment between brands though, and that is to look at the pigment number. On the back of the tube, you will see a pigment number. It says maybe something like PB 309 or PY 722, something like that. That indicates the actual pigment makeup of it, and that will not differ from brand to brand if you're going based off pigment. Look at this color. This is beautiful. Okay, with this I added 2 brushfuls, maybe 2.5. And I didn't fill my brush totally there. That's what happened. But you can see this is a beautiful magenta color. If you had a Prussian blue, if you had this new Gamboge, and if you had a magenta, you would get a wonderful range of colors from just those 3. So I wanted to give you a nice idea of what we had here. Now, those are straight tube colors. And what do you do with them if you're not using them fresh? Well, you can take them out into the field with a palette. Here's my travel palette. It's a Meeden watercolor palette. It's metal, so it's a bit heavy. Once you get all your paint in it, it's even heavier, but I liked it. These are half pan sizes. You can buy full pan sizes. It's twice as long as these. It has some mixing area, not a ton of mixing area, so take that into consideration when you buy a palette. But I could fit, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 times 3, 21. I can fit 21 half pans in here, which is a pretty good deal. It also has this little finger hook on the back, which is super nice. When you're traveling and painting, you can mix like that. It's pretty cool. So that's mine. But you can also buy, I think that was about a $12 purchase. This one's $3.50. I've also used this with plastic. You just have to scratch with a piece of sandpaper inside each well to make it grippy enough to hold paint in, and then you let the paint sit overnight. I did that with the half pans in the metal one too. If your paint is sitting on top of a plastic surface, you will need to scratch it up a little bit. And I have a YouTube video about that if you want to go look and see exactly how I do that. This one's nice. It's nice and large. This is great for beginner students that don't have a lot of finger dexterity yet. They have a lot of area to mix. So if you think about someone who's 5 or 6 just getting used to paint, they kind of want to take their paint and go like this, and it's harder for them to take their mixing area into such a small amount of space. So I like to have a big area where they can mix. These are nice because these trays pop out and you can wash this out in the sink, pop it back in, and you're good. Again, baby wipes are amazing to wipe these out between uses, so use that. And then I also have some already made palettes to show you. This one was, I think, $7 and some change at Blick Art Store here in town. And it's Yarka brand. These are rich transparent colors, and these are full pans. And I love the shape of them. They're a square and they're large, so you can get your paintbrush fully in there. And these colors are very vibrant. I was honestly surprised at some of the colors I was able get, how I think they're super vibrant. And I wouldn't have guessed that, not having tested it. So just to give you an idea here. I don't see a magenta in this set, but they do have some purples. And I bet that the purples are actually made up of a magenta, because that's a pretty neutral looking purple. It's definitely not a bruisey color, so it's, I would say, a good option for those irises and those violets. Any other purple finds you have around you? Okay. So I was pretty happy with that one. As far as mixing space though, on this one, it's just a clear lid, so you might have to have a separate plate to mix on. But same idea over here. I have actually just regular Prang, and this is their double the amount of pans here. There is a set with just one of these standard colors, and then I think it has some renditions of other colors here in the second palette. But just to show you, just to give you an idea of what we're looking at here. Not bad, really. I know that a lot of families use this one. And really, when you're starting out, it's much less about the materials and it's more about you learning how to interact with watercolor in general and learning those simple mixing principles that will help you. And that goes across all media as well. I want to see what this blue looks like. I think it's trying to be a cobalt blue. Looks pretty cobalty to me. And then it looks like there's a pretty close to a hooker's green here. I'll just swap that and see what it looks like. Okay, it's a little more viridian colored, emerald colored. So you've got quite the range here. I could mix, and this is what's different about this one than this one. I could mix here a different type of green. I could warm it up with magenta or red, or I could cool it up with some yellow, or at least make it look more lime colored. Okay, so we definitely have lots of options here. So I hope you pick something that's right for your family, for all your students. And please, if there are any other questions you have, send me an email. I'd love to hear from you and give you a one-on-one talk through of what I think might be perfect for you guys. So try something out, and I will see you in the next video about paper.